by searching their name at unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov. Sports and weather just around the corner.
Missions are about reaching out to the people God's placed in our paths with the life-changing message of the gospel. And on Missions Today, we dive into the stories of God at work around the world and in your neighborhood through people like us, utilizing the tools God's provided. Missions Today is moving to a new day and time here on Moody Radio Cleveland. I'm your host, Colin Lambert. Join me Sundays at 6:30 p.m. That's Missions Today, now on Sunday evenings at 6:30, Moody Radio Cleveland.
In sports, the Blue Jackets fell to the Flyers 5-3, while the Penguins got buried by the Avalanche 6-2. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy skies, snow showers likely, but mainly this morning. Snow accumulation should be around a half an inch. It's going to be cooler, though, today with our highs in the mid-30s. But for those of you in and around Erie County, Pennsylvania, take note. A lake effect snow warning is in effect from 4 p.m. this afternoon all the way to 4 p.m. Thursday. Heavy lake effect snow is expected with total accumulations between 6 and 12 inches. So be prepared. Right now, cloudy and 35 in Cleveland, 34 Akron and Canton, Mansfield reporting light snow and 31 degrees.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
If you are a lover of books, you may need to change your plans because Costco will stop selling books at most of its stores starting in January. The discount warehouse chain will remove the book sections at about 500 of its 600 U.S. stores. The company says it's making the change because stocking books is labor-intensive. But fortunately, we never run out of books at Moody Publishers. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:05. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
708 WCRF. It turns out schools are watching school children, American school children, in a new way that none of us knew about, in like a dramatic fashion. And we're going to chat about that today with our friend Dr. Steve Grcevich. He's president of Key Ministry and a local child and adolescent psychiatrist. Welcome back, Steve.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
You too.
Again, it's WCRF. Don't forget to write down Saturday, March 1st on your calendar. That's our Walkworthy Men's Conference. Saturday, March 1st. We'll be selling tickets soon. Just want to give you the heads up. Again, Saturday, March 1st. So our team got going yesterday after you sent us an article, what you wanted to talk about today, Dr. G, about surveilling students. I didn't know this was happening, and it has dramatic consequences. So can you give us the basics on what's happening?
This has actually been going on for a lot longer than what the piece in the New York Times indicates. Because I was thinking back, the first time I encountered this was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Really?
This has been going on for a while. So I had a call from a family where the police suddenly showed up at their house at 11 o'clock at night. And apparently their son, who was on his school-issued computer, had been searching out some issues related to suicide. And so that it turns out that a great many school systems now have software that is connected to like the iPads and the Chromebooks and the things that they pass out to kids that track online searches and will red flag certain topics. That what happens then as a result is that a text typically goes out to someone on staff at the school, and that there are times that, you know, if this occurs like in the evening or in the weekend, and that there are serious safety concerns about a child raised because of something that comes up in the church or not in the search. Yeah, I've been like doing too much ministry stuff this week. But if something comes up in the search, it's a serious red flag, you know, that there have been situations where like literally the local police or the sheriff will go out to the house to do a safety search on a child. And that's what in fact happened probably 5 or 6 years ago to a family that, you know, that ended up like calling my practice the next day, like looking for help.
And now it indicates that almost half of America's school children have this surveillance happening. I mean, surveillance is a strong word, but there's monitoring going on the school-issued computer.
Well, yeah, there's monitoring going on school-issued computers. One of the reasons why maybe I haven't seen or heard as much of this over the last couple of years is that the kids from the families that come to my practice are sophisticated enough to know that it's going on, and so that they're on their own personal cell phones and
Yes.
other, you know, and, you know, their own like, you know, laptops and tablets and iPads, and that a lot of kids are conscious and aware of the reality that this is going on. And as a result, they're not searching out those kinds of things on a, on a school-issued computer that has this type of software installed.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the sophistication of kids when it comes to technology.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we had an incident at my house years ago where we had a pastor's family come over, and they're a wonderful family. And we had one family computer, a personal computer out in the basement. And one of the pastor's kids was like, hey, we should go look at this or whatever. And my kids were like, oh, my parents have like this thing locked down. We can't get in there. He goes, oh, no problem. Like almost like cracks his knuckles, shut down the whole thing, and they're on the internet. It didn't take him more than a few seconds. But now, as I look at this, our team went back and forth and how we feel about it, because the opening story they share from the New York Times, a young woman messages a friend on her school-issued computer about wanting to take her own life, subsequently takes an overdose of sleeping pills, and by the time the police showed up, she was able to be rescued.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked.
In that case.
It rescued her completely from the situation. So as a psychiatrist who's seen this come out, like, how do you feel about it? I mean, it's worked. Sometimes it's been good.
Okay, so that there are risks versus benefits. And one of the things I think a lot of people fail to appreciate is that a lot of times, like when families are getting involved with sort of the emergency service when it comes to like mental health care. Just going through that process can be really traumatic for a kid. That there've been like lots of stories written over the last few years about families like being encouraged or told to take their kids to like local emergency rooms. And if there's like a need for a kid to go to the hospital, they could sit there for days. You think about that, in situations where maybe this is like, less serious, like, it's traumatic, like, having like a couple of like armed policemen show up at your door at 11 o'clock at night.
And that's
especially for certain kids who'd be like, predisposed to like a lot of anxiety or, intrusive thinking where the process of intervening itself, can be perceived or experienced as a trauma.
Well, and that's the back and forth from our team. We were like, wow, if my kid really was attempting to take their own life, I would love this.
You'd want to know, yeah.
But if this was a false alarm, it would be horrifying.
Well, I think one of the other points that they made in the article that it sounds like, and from the description, there are about 4 or 5 large companies that are like selling this software in significant scale to school systems. There isn't any outcome data on this.
Interesting. Okay, so we don't know how many are false alarms versus how many lives are saved.
Exactly. One of the other points, and this is something I think a lot of folks aren't necessarily aware of, is that in a lot of our communities, the vast preponderance of the mental health care offered to kids is provided through schools. So that, here in Northeast Ohio, like a significant number of the school systems have contracts with different mental health agencies where there are literally counselors and case managers from those agencies inside the schools.
How do you feel about that?
Well, that's what my daughter does for a living. No, I mean, yeah. So that she's a case manager at Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health in Canton, and that there are a couple of elementary schools and a high school that she's assigned to there, and so that when kids are in some kind of crisis, part of her job is to help them and help their families like navigate the system to be able to get the help that they need. And so in some ways, like when you have, when you have a system where, there are mental health professionals tied into a school where they can help folks, access care when there is an issue, I would tend to feel better about that than, than the situation that, kind of like showed up on my doorstep. Where the police are, the police are at a family's front door at 11 o'clock at night and saying, you need to find somebody to see your kid tomorrow,
Scary.
or there's the specter that, in the eyes of the school, if you don't immediately intervene, is that then sort of like a reportable child protective services kind of issue?
It's 7:17 on WCRF Mornings with Brian. Our guest is Dr. Steve Grcevich, a local child and adolescent psychiatrist and founder and president of Key Ministry. We're chatting about how he's known about this. I think many of us have not, that almost 50% of America's school children have special AI monitoring on their school-issued devices that can watch for suicidal ideation, like searches and such, and could send the police to your front door in the middle of the night or on a weekend. We're chatting more about this here after a quick break.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. and now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Prayer isn't a substitute for action. It is an action for which there is no substitute. At a time when several states have again voted to expand abortion rights and the abortion bill continues to rise, prayer is a powerful response. That's why CareNet has formed the Abundant Life Prayer Network. When you join the Abundant Life Prayer Network, you'll be connected to a compassionate community of Christians who are praying for fathers and mothers at risk for choosing abortion, praying for our nation's pregnancy centers and churches as they minister to these fathers and mothers, and praying that unborn babies and their parents will not only have life, but will have abundant life through Christ. As a part of CareNet's Abundant Life Prayer Network, you'll impact lives, grow spiritually, and join with other Christians who share your respect for life and your love for those facing pregnancy decisions. Learn more about the Abundant Life Prayer Network at care-net.org/prayer. care-net.org/prayer. Join today.
Wishing you a season that's merry and bright with the light of God's love. Merry Christmas from your friends at Mornings with Brian and Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Well, it's done now. That was Lauren Daigle, and might be Lauren Cuevas' favorite Christmas song she's ever heard.
I think so.
Maybe.
722 WCRF Moody Radio. With us in studio, our friend Dr. Steve Grcevich. he shared with us a New York Times piece that showed us something we'd never heard of. He's been familiar with this for years, that school-issued computers, about half of America's school children have AI software installed on there, screening for things like suicidal ideation type searches, right, and comments, and will alert school officials, which means you could, on an evening or a weekend, have the police show up at your house because of something your kid searched in their school computer. Now, somebody might say to you, well, Steve, what's wrong with that? I like that. I want my kid to be safe.
Well, I think that one of the things that's a potential concern is that one of the things they talk about in the piece is that there are an awful lot of false alarms. So again, like these programs are based upon, kids putting certain like keywords like into a browser. And so, are they researching this for, are they typing in like suicide for a science project? Are they concerned about a friend perhaps, who they might have had like a conversation with like during the day? I think, we were talking over the break and, Lauren mentioned something about like, a kid who triggered a search where he like was looking up Nerf guns and, you include gun and you get a false positive. And so that one of the things that you don't want to do, and, we talk about the notion of do no harm, is that, if you're going to be like red flagging lots of kids, and if, part of that process is that you then want them go to get some sort of an evaluation, that's not necessarily a benign process.
Right.
And that like, you start thinking about like, Christian families where there's an urgency to get in to see somebody, that you don't necessarily know whether that person is going to like reflect your family's values. When you take kids to a mental health professional, it is highly likely that they will find something.
Why is that?
Because we don't get paid for what we do if you take insurance and if you put in like a diagnostic code of quote unquote no diagnosis.
Yeah, totally fine.
I know a couple of times like back in the day, like when I used to have like residents, fellows, students like coming through my practice, that probably maybe like once a year, once every other year, I would evaluate a kid who was in fact mentally healthy, where like, I didn't see any, significant concerns or, didn't end up giving them a diagnosis. But if you're in a practice where you're tied into insurance and you don't list a diagnosis, you will not get reimbursed for that.
Wow.
I think something we talked about as a team yesterday was if this is happening on a weekend or an evening and just the police showing up at your door, as a parent, I feel like you should be notified before this goes to the police.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things
Yes.
when I think about like, my own personal experience, that was what happened the first time I was aware that the schools were doing this. It's the cops at 11 o'clock at night on the family's front door. But one of the challenges is that given like the nature of our technology, it's really difficult to reach people. Like I don't answer my phone anymore because 95% of my phone calls are spam.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that like, is a parent like if, how many people are like listening for their cell phone ringing at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night?
Oh, I make sure it doesn't ring at that time. Yeah. So you brought up do no harm, which I know is something physicians must think through. So help me with this. If there's a treatment that becomes available and it's got more potential for harm than benefit for patients, am I correct that it would not be applied very regularly?
That's correct.
So that's kind of what you're saying here, right? Is that there's more potential for harm in this technology than there is for benefiting the suicidal ideation being identified.
Well, actually, what I'm saying here is I don't think we know that's why you
problem.
need data.
Gotcha.
So that how many kids end up being flagged by this in certain types of school systems. Do you end up like flagging more kids in a high-income community versus a low-income community? What is the outcome of whatever sorts of mental health evaluations they had? Like, how many of these kids where they're Googling stuff like this are already connected to a mental health professional? Does that response look different? So part of the challenge is that I don't think that I haven't seen data anywhere that tells us whether on the whole the benefits of going ahead and doing this kind of screening outweigh the risk. What I can say is that, I have seen lots of families who have been in this situation where they had to seek out emergency mental health for their kids, mental health support for their kids, and that in a lot of ways the process was more traumatic than the problem that they had in the first place. And that would be my concern.
And you also brought up off the air, I think there may be a misconception in the general public about the frequency of suicide.
Yeah, so that I've seen studies that have reported that up to like half of like the teenagers in the United States have at least fleeting suicidal thoughts at some point in time. There are 1.5 million suicide attempts nationally among like children and teens in a typical year. There are 7,000 completed suicides. And so while this is horrific and it's tragic, one of the things that the mental health profession struggles to do well is to predict who's actually at risk of completing suicide.
Fascinating.
Because when you look at this issue in kids, less than 0.5% of all suicide attempts result in a completed suicide.
So perhaps this high level of monitoring over something that is so infrequent could be part of the problem, right? Causing so much trauma in false alarms.
Well, it depends upon how the school responds to it. Like, as you said, that the sheriff showing up at the house at 11 o'clock at night after a girl has overdosed on medicine, and needed to be in a hospital, that's a good thing. But, how many other kids, where that happens, does that incident, in fact, become a traumatic event that causes them to have mental health issues that they would not have experienced, had it not been for the process that was followed. And we don't know the answer to that question right now.
Fascinating. It's certainly got us thinking, and I appreciate the help. Again, Dr. Steve Grcevich is a child and adolescent psychologist here in Northeast Ohio, and also president and founder of Key Ministry. Get folks connected to you, Doc.
www.keyministry.org. We are working on and looking forward to our Disability in the Church Conference, which will be largest disability ministry conference in the country, McLean Bible Church, suburban Washington, D.C., April 29th to May 1st.
All righty. Thanks again, Doc. I always love having you on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Coming up in just a minute, morning routines. Highly successful people have specific ones. So do we. We'll talk about them here in just a few.
This is FEBC Today with Ed Cannon, the president of the Far East Broadcasting Company. Let's go to Central Asia and talk about Kazakhstan.
Wayne, we're broadcasting in the Kazakh language in Kazakhstan, but only through the internet and shortwave radio.
Okay.
The government there won't allow us to have FM stations, even though we've been praying for a number of years, and we're confident that in God's time we will produce that. However, people are responding to our programs in large numbers, and it's changing their life, as we're going to hear from one of the listeners right now.
Yeah, representing a young family who listens.
I am a follower of Christ and married to a Christian man who is one of the leaders in our church. We are raising 3 sons. Personally, I value responsibility very high. I am working hard on keeping my promises, finishing up whatever I start. Unfortunately, too many people around me easily promise things, yet seem to be perfectly fine without fulfilling those promises. Thanks for bringing up this topic in your broadcast. We need to talk about it more so that our sons and daughters embrace a responsible and godly way of behavior.
She's exactly right. We do need to embrace a more godly way of behavior in every aspect of our life. Can you use this wonderful radio station you have to influence the lives of those around you with this kind of responsibility? Because as believers, we all know, as it says in Galatians chapter 5, that if we walk by the Spirit, we will not gratify the desires of the flesh, and these irresponsible behaviors will go away.
Thanks, Ed. We've just heard one of more than 2 million responses heard each year from listeners to the Far East Broadcasting Company, this one from Kazakhstan. For more, go online to febc.org.
Counseling, it's what God created you to do. When you earn your Master of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling from Moody Bible Institute, you'll be equipped to help others become who God created them to be. Study at Moody's Chicago or Michigan campus, where you can secure certificates in the areas of marriage, family, and couples counseling, as well as trauma-informed counseling. Learn more and get started on your counseling career today. Go to moody.edu/counseling.
Moody Radio's thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Morning routines. CEOs have very specific ones, sometimes odd. We have our own as well, and we're going to fess up to them. No lying, it's Christian radio.
Of course.
I'm going to be very open about it here in just a minute. Again, WCRF Mornings with Brian. Mark your calendars. We've got Walk Worthy coming Saturday, March 1st. Write it down. We'll announce speakers and ticket sales here soon. But for now, Saturday, March 1st, block off the day for yourself or your husband or your boyfriend, your dad, your uncle, your son, whatever. Okay? See you there, Saturday, March 1st. All right, we're going to talk about some of the CEOs first. Just came out in Ron did some research on this, Business Insider, because Ron is a business insider. Jeff Bezos from Amazon.
Yeah.
He admittedly likes to putter in the morning.
Oh, yeah, that sounds nice.
Which is, doesn't it? When you have $1 bajillion, you can do that.
Yeah, that's a Saturday morning
exactly.
routine, not a every day of the week routine for most of us.
He reads newspapers, has coffee, no phones allowed, then breakfast with his kids. He likes breakfast octopus, which I don't. We tried to figure this out yesterday.
We think it probably is real octopus?
He's probably like, oh, you know what I prefer? What meat I prefer in breakfast is octopus.
What meat I prefer?
Sausage or octopus, Jeff? Octopus.
That's a lot for the morning.
It is.
His brain is most alert at 10 a.m., and that's when he holds most of his meetings. Sam Altman, who's CEO of OpenAI, he likes a big shot of espresso as soon as he gets up, followed by a fast for 15 hours.
Goodness.
No breakfast. So he wakes up, has a shot of espresso, and doesn't eat again. Well, doesn't eat for 15 hours.
That would kill me. Just straight espresso on an empty stomach.
Oh, no, I can't do that.
I would die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you figure he's probably been sleeping around 6 hours, maybe more or less. But and then another 15 hours of fasting, unless he eats while he sleeps.
So he eats once a day.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, I get hangry if I miss a snack, so I would be just a rage machine. I don't know how he does it. 15 hours. And then he catches up on emails while using a full-spectrum LED light for 15 minutes to make him more alert.
A full-spectrum LED? What?
I don't know what that means.
There's this thing called the sun. He should try it.
The CEO of Snapchat, Evan Spiegel, wakes up at 5 a.m. for Evan time.
Very good.
Which includes alone time, checking emails, and a shot of double espresso.
If I'm having Lauren time, it is not checking emails.
That is not alone
I'll tell you
time.
that much.
Yeah. This is followed by 45 minutes in the gym. All these guys work out every morning.
Of course they do.
No wonder I'm not a CEO.
No, the problem is you don't have servants to do everything. Therefore, you don't have time to go to the gym.
Correct. I was annoyed with Mark Zuckerberg with a lot of his, so I'm skipping it, although I do admire he wears the same thing every day. So he has a closet full of the exact same pair of jeans and the exact same t-shirt because he doesn't want to expend any creative or mental energy on what he's going to wear. Okay. I did that for a while. Remember, Ron?
Right.
I had one shirt I liked the best, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do now. I went back to Kohl's and I bought every color. Yeah, I bought every color of the same shirt.
I didn't know I was like that until several years ago, almost 9 years ago, someone called it out at me. I was at missionary training and one of my friends was like, you really love a uniform, don't you? And I was like, what are you talking about? And like, you wear this, this, and this, like every day, just in different varietals.
Is it a strategy intentionally?
No.
Have you thought about making it intentional?
I mean, I haven't thought about making it intentional, but I just still do it. These are the things I like, and I'm just going to
I got you.
Just have a bunch of those in different types.
But I got to tell you, when I did it, way less stressful picking out what to wear.
Oh, yeah.
So, but besides that, I mean, I'm not even going to share what he did. Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, wakes up at 4:15 by choice and immediately works out alone on a VersaClimber in a dark room with the TV on mute.
Is he okay?
No.
I wonder what he's watching on TV.
It doesn't
matter because it's on mute.
Yeah, but you could be watching
subtitles.
Yeah. Stocks go by or something.
I looked up a VersaClimber. It's very scary.
That was my next question is what's a VersaClimber?
Yeah, how do you describe that, Lauren?
Basically, it's like a stair machine, Ian, but not
it has
quite stairs. But
it
has
the arm
too.
things, and so it's a long pole. You're like kind of leaning up against.
It's kind of like you're climbing up a mountain.
Mm-hmm. But he does it in the dark with TV on mute.
Well,
he's kind of a scary guy, clearly. Tim Cook Tim Cook at Apple wakes up between 3:45 and 5.
That's a
It's not.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
That's not a routine. I'll set my alarm
Right.
for 3:45.
Snooze.
Hit snooze 45 times and then get up.
I wake up sometime between 6 a.m. and noon, sometime around there. And then he reads about 700 emails from customers and employees for an hour. Then he heads to the gym for an hour.
How do you get through 700 emails in an hour?
Yeah.
He's not responding.
But
do you
even reading them.
But even reading. Complaint emails are long.
Oh, yeah.
I know from experience.
Because his would start with, I've been an Apple customer for my whole life.
Yes, and then they got to explain how many generations they've had.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't go through 700. He's exaggerating that number.
Or he's a speed reader. Dr. Charlie Dyer from Moody Bible Institute knows how to speed read.
Oh, yeah, I've heard him talk about that.
Where he could read an entire book in I forget how long, but it's obscene. I even when I'm listening to a book, every couple minutes I back it up.
Oh, you got to back it up.
When someone reading
Mind
to
starts
me.
to wander. Yeah.
Or I got to hear that again. I'm not sure I processed that. Anyway, that's what CEOs are doing. What we're going to do in just a minute. With full transparency, I'm looking at all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Morning routines.
I think you're saying this like that because you're weird. I don't think the rest of us do weird stuff. You're being so odd about this, and I think it's a you problem.
Hoping that you all are a little weird.
We are not.
I'm hoping. Please.
We are not.
Okay, we're going to take a break so you can find something a little odd about your morning routine.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. Inflation is hitting everyone hard right now, especially when it comes to healthcare. Over the last 10 years, healthcare costs have skyrocketed by, get this, 230%. If you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are still out-of-pocket expenses like deductibles and co-payments, and they really add up. But here's some good news. MediShare 65 Plus is designed to fill in those gaps and help protect you from rising healthcare costs. At only $99 per month up to age 75, you get peace of mind at a price you can afford. And MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around 30 years. It's not some big impersonal thing. It's a community of people helping each other, business owners, pastors, retirees. People love it. MediShare 65 Plus just makes sense. To learn more, give them a call. They're great to talk to. They'll offer to pray with you each time you call, too. Call now, 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE, 833-59-SHARE.
Advent is upon us. Join Today in the Word as we prepare our hearts for this season of hope, love, joy, and peace. Actually, we're living between two Advents. While we celebrate the birth of Jesus, we also look forward with great anticipation to his return. Join devotional author Dr. John Kessler for our December study, Hope is Born, Living Between Two Advents. Download the free Today in the Word app or go to todayintheword.com.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Tell him, Lauren. Tell him.
That was jump 5.
That's your jam.
Woo!
It sounded like she said, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with Hugh.
Hugh.
Yeah. Who's Hugh?
I don't know, but
he's a great hang.
you want to go on a sleigh ride?
Okay, so we were chatting about CEO morning routines, and I'm self-conscious about my idiosyncrasies.
Yeah,
and
so you're trying to blame it on
neuroticisms.
us.
So you guys are all going to go
Neuroticisms.
first. Yeah.
Neuroses.
So, Ron Eastwood, I know you don't get up in the morning because of you work overnights at UPS, but for your morning, do you have a routine?
I get up somewhere between 9:30 and 9:31 p.m.
So you don't hit snooze. You're up.
Yeah, I am up. I set the alarm clock on my dresser, so I have to get out of bed to turn it off.
That's smart.
I've got it set to music, so I hear almost always it's right on the ID at the bottom of the hour for WCRF.
Oh.
So I'm reminded we play from Sandusky to Newcastle or whatever the little promo says.
And then you do a stair climber in the dark with TV on mute?
No. I stumble into the bathroom, get ready, take my shower. I come out, I get dressed and pack clothes. So I dress for UPS and I pack clothes for WCRF because it's a different attire, different vibes totally. I go downstairs sometime around 9:55, shortly before 10.
So it's a quick routine.
Yeah.
It's quick. You're moving.
Yeah, I don't have time to mess around.
No dilly-dallying.
I don't read 600 emails. No, don't have time for that.
Who does?
Go downstairs. Most
Not
times,
Brian.
Dana has prepared a dinner meal for me, which is my breakfast, but, it's dinner food. And I eat while I'm looking at text messages that may have come in and check my email here. If there's anything I should be aware of and thinking about. Then we chat for a little bit about, what happened in her day, what had happened in my previous day. If I had some weird dream, sometimes we'll psychoanalyze those. And about 10:15, I get up and take my plate and everything into the sink, gather up my stuff, put on my coat and hat, come back, kiss her goodbye, and 10:15 to 10:20, I'm out the door.
So it's pretty well adjusted and normal, kind of.
Yeah. By about 10:22, I'm driving by a gym, and then I go out to work. Start by 11, so be there before that.
Okay. Boy, it's pretty regular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Daria.
So I set my alarm for 4 a.m. Hit snooze a couple times. Actual time I get up is usually between like 4:15, 4:20. Then I go do my makeup, do my hair, brush my teeth, go downstairs.
Anything like about that, the brushing the hair and the brushing the teeth that's unique or?
No. I make my breakfast the night before, so it's already in the fridge for me. Most mornings I have a peanut butter and banana smoothie. Drink that, get some water, get hydrated to start my morning. I leave the house about 5 a.m., get here around 5:30. I listen to music on my drive. That's about it.
Brian?
I feel like we must be missing something. No, don't say me.
It.
It's your turn.
Okay. I wake up between 3:30 and 3:45.
Do you hit snooze?
Yeah, but intentionally.
I'm so scared of snooze.
I just know that I would like to snooze, so my first alarm is 3:30. So I have another alarm. It's not a snooze, it's just another alarm.
See, explain this to me. This never computes, and I'd say this to Sarah. You know you're not going to get up in the first one.
Yeah.
Why do you set it? Just get up later. Get more sleep.
Mm-hmm.
No, because I would like a couple minutes to lay there half asleep.
It's because you're in a really deep sleep. When your first alarm goes off, you don't want that when it's like time to get up.
Yeah, I would like a couple minutes to lay there and ponder my life's decisions.
But you see,
while my eyes are closed.
The way I'm processing this is that you're depriving yourself of precious sleep by not just getting up at the last alarm.
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
Ron, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And I fear if I allow myself to hit snooze once, twice, I would forget this is the final one. I got to get up now.
Oh, no, I don't hit the snooze. It's a second alarm.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not just like, I don't get to just hit snooze over and over again.
I gotcha.
Snooze is not an option. It's just another alarm 15 minutes later.
Okay, so I'm just going to call that routine for both Daria and Lauren a little weird. Go ahead.
It's not.
No, I think so many people do that.
I know.
Then I get up, I take a shower, get ready, get dressed. Then I go downstairs and I get my breakfast. Sometimes it's pre-made, sometimes it's not. It's easy on the go.
Okay.
Fill my water for my drive. I get in the car, I don't know, 4:15ish, and then I make my way. I get in the car between 4:15 and 4:30, and I'm here by 4:45 or 5.
No, so around 4:30 is about when you see the Sailor Man in Peninsula?
Yes, exactly. I drive through Peninsula, I see the Sailor Man.
With fear and trepidation as you hit the border of Peninsula.
Yes, for a lot of reasons. Number 1, Sailor Man. Number 2, they got a lot of speed traps over there.
Yeah, they do. I think they got me once.
They've gotten me twice, and it's not fair because it's downhill. So, but that's a different discussion.
Isn't that rude?
It is a little bit rude.
Like, I'm sorry if you're a police officer. I'm grateful for your service to our community. But if you wait at the bottom of a hill for people, you're mean. You're legitimately mean, and you're trying to get us. That's not fair. Okay.
That's my routine.
All right, Brian. We only got 3 minutes.
Now, I just think that you guys, aren't being
Probably
specific
should cut
enough.
their song wrong.
Like, if I don't have a very specific routine, things will be forgotten.
Okay.
Do you have that experience?
Our routines were pretty specific. Like, we do things in relatively the same order at roughly the same time.
If I'm worried that I'm going to forget something, I'll set ask Siri to remind me at 4 a.m. so I see it before I leave the house, or I'll put it by my keys so I know I'll have to grab it or take it or whatever.
Yeah, I put everything in my work bag the night before. So I just grab that in my purse and I'm out.
Well, I have different routines based on the season. But is that neurotic? Probably. So I get up at 4 and I immediately grab I get up right away. Like, there's no hesitation, there's no drifting. My alarm went off, which means it's time to get up. So that's what I do. I get up, I go out, I start my car remotely. I have a little remote start on my car.
So you just go straight from bed to your car?
No, through the window. I don't go outside.
Okay.
And then I pour coffee into my mug because if I do it too soon, it's going to be too hot. Like, if I wait till I'm about to leave, it'll be too hot to drink. I want it to be perfect temperature when I leave. So I pour it in there and let it sit there on the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go in the bathroom and I've got all the things I have to do, the brushing the teeth, taking the medicine, doing the allergy, nose spray, all the things. So I take out all the things I need to do and I put it on the left side of the sink. And as I complete the task, I move it to the right side of the sink. Just to be sure everything's done. That's just how I know everything's done. I'm measuring your face to see if you think this is weird. Is it weird?
No.
It's not weird?
I mean, I'll pull out my face wash, moisturizer, deodorant, and when I'm done with it, that part of it, I'll put it back in my little basket.
Like, if I don't take them out and put them in a place so I can see them and then move them to the completed pile, I will forget something.
I mean, I sort of understand because I take 2 separate vitamins, and sometimes I'll forget which one I took or if I took them at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got them. Look at you guys. See, I'm being more specific. Do you see?
You, first of all,
we don't.
I don't even want to get into.
I just
this
said I
with you
understand.
Right now. You asked what our routine was. You didn't say, how do you tie your shoes? You asked what our routine was. You didn't say, do you take out your deodorant and then swish it 2 times and then set it to the side?
Which foot hits the floor first?
Yeah, exactly. You didn't say that. You just asked for our routines.
No, but did you just reveal something?
You were the one that, no, I don't think so. You were the one that said you had odd routines.
I think it's
weird. No one put
weird.
that on you. None of us see you in the morning. So.
Well, thankfully, yeah.
Yes, honestly.
See you early enough.
If I don't do everything in the same order, things will be forgotten.
That's okay.
It's very neurotic.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
All of us described our morning routine, which probably doesn't change a ton from day to
mine's
day.
basically exactly the same every single day.
On purpose?
Yeah. That's what a routine is.
Exactly.
Well, but see, you doing snooze throws off my whole idea of a routine. Or not snooze, but not getting up to an alarm.
That's my routine.
She still gets up around the same time.
I can't. It doesn't compute with my neuroticism.
I hope Dr. G's listening, so I have a phone call to make later.
So you don't, okay, wow.
I don't think it's that weird.
So I'm not that weird.
I don't think so.
Could you maybe have that say that in a very complete sentence?
No, I will not.
I think it's weird that you're
version.
insisting it's so weird.
No, you're
I
the
thought
one.
it was.
Sorry, yeah. You're the one acting like it's so weird.
I'm self-conscious
about
about the setting the things on the side and then the moving it thing. I'm self-conscious. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so weird.
I thought you were like, I have to do so many laps around the bed before I leave the room, and then I have to put always the right shoe on first, and then.
Do you really?
No, I'm projecting onto you.
Oh, I was about to be relieved. I was like, oh, you do that. Oh, I'm not so weird.
No, that would be weird if someone did that.
Okay, so
I think it's okay that you pull out all your stuff to make sure you get it all done.
Right.
I share a room with you. I don't want you to stink in here.
I need a clip. I need a concise clip from you, Lauren, describing what
I'm
I
not
just.
doing that.
All right. Well,
leave me alone. Exactly.
All right. Bible questions for Dr. Rydelnik coming up. Ask them now by call or text 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Israel is reported to have carried out dozens, if not hundreds, of airstrikes across Syria in an effort to destroy weapons and keep them out of the hands of rebels. It's 8:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Meanwhile, White House National Security spokesman John Kirby says the U.S. is doing what it can to bring about stability after the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. The United Nations chemical watchdog is urging authorities in Syria to ensure the safety and security of all chemical weapons. Akron's Metro RTA has seen a sharp increase in ridership this year. RTA says figures are up 23% this year over last year. CEO Dawn Dissler says they are thrilled to see such a strong increase in ridership, which reflects not only the hard work of their team, but also the growing public demand for accessible and sustainable transportation options. And the Cleveland Kennel is slashing its adoption fees in an effort to find forever homes for its dogs. On Saturday and Sunday, adoption fees will be cut from the normal $61 to just $21. I'll have sports and weather in just a moment.
Whether you're investing, saving, paying off debt, going to college, or buying a new car, God's wisdom can guide our decisions as we're seeking to live as faithful stewards to advance His kingdom. Hi, I'm Rob West, host of Faith and Finance Live. Listen each day as I take your calls at 800-525-7000 on any financial topic. It's Faith and Finance Live on Moody Radio, weekdays at 4 p.m., where our faith defines our financial decisions.
In sports, the Blue Jackets fell to the Flyers 5-3, while the Penguins got buried by the Avalanche 6-2. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy, snow showers likely, but mainly this morning. Accumulation should only be around a half an inch. It's going to be cooler with highs in the mid-30s. But for those of you in and around Erie County, Pennsylvania, take note. A lake effect snow warning is in effect from 4 p.m. this afternoon to 4 p.m. tomorrow. Heavy lake effect snow is expected with accumulations between 6 and 12 inches. At our last check, we did have light snow in Cleveland, 33 degrees. Akron and Canton still cloudy and 33. Light snow falling in Lorraine and Elyria, where it's 32 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
If you are a lover of books, you may need to change your plans because Costco will stop selling books at most of its stores starting in January. The discount warehouse chain will remove the book sections at about 500 of its 600 U.S. stores. The company says it's making the change because stocking books is labor-intensive. But fortunately, we never run out of books at Moody Publishers. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:05. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
He presides over the Moody Bible Institute academics from the Dean's Complex at Moody Bible Institute. He's married to the lovely Eva, who people like better than him, honestly. But he doesn't care because he loves her so much. Dr. Michael Rydelnik, professor of Jewish Studies, host of Open Line, dean of the undergraduate school at Moody. Welcome back.
I like Eva much better than I like me, so that's no issue.
And I've told you I like her better than you, and we're both okay with that.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with it. I like her much better than I like myself. So there we go.
Oh, you're so biblical.
Well, no, it's really true. I mean,
I know it is.
I know my personality. I know hers. I'm not talking about Ephesians 5. The husband should love his wife sacrificially. I'm talking about just pleasant personality. I like Eva's personality much more than mine. So,
we just had somebody text in, poor Sarah, in reference to my wife being married to me.
I
so
agree.
I understand.
Oh, yes.
Yes. No, it's true.
I agree. Maybe I agreed too quickly on that, Brian. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Hey. No, it's true. It's very true. All right. Bible questions for Dr. Michael Rydelnik, 440-546-2255.
We have a listener that has a college student coming to church with them. They've never been to church, but they've started coming with him and his wife. They don't bring a Bible, and he would like to get them a Bible, but they have no kind of Christian background. He's wondering what kind of Bible would be good for them just to get started in.
Well, the first thing I would do is I would start and ask, what Bible are they using at church? A lot of churches have a key Bible. I use the HCSB, the Holman Christian Standard Bible. However, I went to preach at a church out in California, and I was told, we only use the ESV. I had to quick go find an ESV for my sermon. And so find out what they're reading at the church. I think most churches today would be using a good modern translation like the ESV or the HCSB or the New American Standard. Those are some of the ones I would look at, the New International Version. They're all good versions. They have some strengths over others, and some weaknesses that others don't have. There's a whole different way of looking at it. I deal with how to choose a Bible translation for yourself in the book, 50 Most Important Bible Questions. But nevertheless, that's a good thing to get people for their Christmas present, just saying. But anyway, that 50 Most Important Bible Questions. But the...
I thought you meant a Bible.
A Bible and a Moody Bible commentary and the 50 Most Important Bible Questions. Get them a package.
That's right.
That's it.
It's a great idea.
A package deal. So, but there are all sorts of good translations, and but I would start with the question of since you're bringing them to church, what are they using at your church?
King James.
Unless it's a King James version, then get them a King James for church and get them one that they can actually understand.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, we've had a couple questions about Bible translations in the last few weeks, but we haven't necessarily talked about the two general styles of translation, right? The word for word and thought for thought. Can you talk about the difference?
Sure. There's some translation. There's three approaches. There's dynamic equivalence, which is thought for thought. That's like the New Living Translation is a translation. It's not a paraphrase, but it's thought for thought. It's not word for word. And then there's something like the New American Standard, which is word for word. That is a literal translation. And then one of the things I really like about the HCSB, they sought in the original HCSB to accomplish something called optimal equivalence, meaning as much as you can, translate it word for word, and where it doesn't communicate in our culture, then go with the thought. So it's sort of a bridge between the two, and I think it works real well.
What's that one called again, that style?
The optimal equivalence.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Now, are you mad at me if I prefer thought for thought?
No.
You're not like secretly mad at me or disappointed or?
No.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
Good. All right. I was going to pull Lauren down with me, but
Eva loves the word for word. She loves the New American Standard. She mistakenly believes that the Apostle Paul and Moses actually wrote that translation. But on the other hand, I see the value of that in a more in-depth study when you're working, like in a Bible study group, or you're really that word for word really is helpful. But if you're reading in a rapid sense, like when I'm reading through 2 Chronicles and I want to get through the story kind of quickly, I think a dynamic equivalence or something leaning that direction, like the NIV is not dynamic equivalence, but it leans heavily that way. That's a good one to read. The New Living Translation, that's great to read. So it just depends on what you're doing with your text. We are blessed and privileged here in the United States to have multiple versions available to us that we can read at different times.
Well, and this is where a lot of people, I think, too, that are not Christians misunderstand what we're doing, right? They're like, oh, you got all these versions of the Bible. No, translating a language is not a direct, simple thing to do, right?
No, especially in ancient language. Ancient language it's a hard issue. And in fact, you have verses where the translators have to make translation judgments, and especially if you're in a thought for thought, you've got to figure out what the word for word means to do that, and there may be various options. And so, as a result, some people say, I want to make the decision for myself and study it out, so I'll go with the literal word for word. And then in other settings, like Brian, you're too lazy to figure it out. So
I knew you were going to do it.
You want the translator to figure it out for you, and that's why you use a thought for thought.
One of the beautiful things about people who are multilingual is when you encounter families or friends that speak the same group of languages, you listen to them weave in and out of languages based on what language is going to best express their thought and feeling.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you ever do that? Because you speak Hebrew, don't you?
Well, yeah, but who am I going to speak it with? I do that more when I'm with a Yiddish speaker.
Okay.
Because that was my mother tongue, I would say. I was going to say Mamalushan, but that's Yiddish. My first language was Yiddish. My parents were from Eastern Europe. My mom was from Germany and learned it. My mom actually learned Yiddish in concentration camp. My dad spoke it, never learned English. So our language in our home till I was about 5 years old and went to kindergarten was Yiddish. And so when I'm with my friend Larry and his wife, she speaks Yiddish. I will sometimes find the words in Yiddish better than English.
And to monolinguists like most of us listening here in America, what do you mean the words better in Yiddish?
There are words in Yiddish that express thoughts that English doesn't even have.
In every language.
And that's true in every language. So it's kind of fun to have someone that will understand the word.
And I've heard some say, actually, that English is one of the lesser expressive languages. Is that your experience true, or you're not agreeing with that?
No, I think English is pretty remarkable about how it can articulate thoughts and feelings. No, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
But, I'm no expert on Spanish or French, I took French for 5 years in school, and
oui.
I just hope that, when I was doing my doctorate, I was just praying, oh, God, please let me be able to read this French article that I was doing, so, that's so I don't speak it real well.
I speak Canadian and British, so.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yep. Yeah, that's it.
Go to the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, 440-546-2255. Sometimes you and I do this just to annoy Lauren, I think, Michael.
Yeah.
It's working.
I don't think Dr. Rydelnik does it to annoy me. Okay, the next question. In the book of Luke, the Magi, we are told, are from the east. Are they referred to?
Not in the book of Luke, in the book of Matthew.
In Matthew, the Magi, we're told, are from the far east. Are they referred to anywhere else, and what are they known as today?
They're known as the Magi because that's all they're known as.
Where are they from?
They're from the east, and that's only in Matthew.
Stop that. Where do you think they're from?
They're from the east.
Southeast Asia, China, India, Persia?
Northeast of Israel, there was an area that Jewish people had been taken to, Babylon. And then Babylon was conquered by Persia. There was a very important Jewish prophet that was taken to Babylon and then became the prime minister of Persia. We can read about him in the book of Daniel. I am convinced that Daniel, who was one of the set of wise men, that's what magi are, wise men, that Daniel had a great influence for generations, for several hundred years, so that by the time you come to the first century, there were wise men that were aware of the Hebrew scriptures, that looked at them and knew the Messiah was coming. And then they were astronomers as well as part of their wise duties. And they saw this sign in the sky and they thought, this is a miraculous sign that fits with what the scriptures say about a coming Messiah from the Jewish people. Let's go see him. And that's why those wise men from the northeast of Israel, wise men from the east, came to bring honor and homage, I guess we would say, worship the King that was born in Bethlehem.
So then do you get secretly annoyed by the Christmas carol, We Three Kings? Are you rolling your eyes?
Secretly annoyed is, someone wanted to know how many were there and were they kings? And no, they weren't kings. They were wise men, and they brought 3 gifts, but we don't know that there were 3 of them.
And they're not from the Orient, like the song says, because that's not even a place.
No, an Orient is an old word for the biblical world. And so, yes.
I thought that, okay.
Yeah, but doesn't mean China. It means the Oriental Institute in Chicago, at the University of Chicago. That was referring to the biblical world, the Babylon, Persia, Israel, those places.
Okay, see, I learn something every day. And that's what I learned today. It's 8:17, time for a quick break. We're with Dr. Michael Rydelnik, professor of Jewish Studies at Moody, host of Open Line, heard Saturdays 10 to noon right here in this radio station, and dean of the undergraduate school at Moody Bible Institute. When we come back, more of your Bible questions, 440-546-2255.
Pursue your passion for shepherding, teaching, and ministry leadership with a Master of Divinity from Moody Theological Seminary. New for fall of 2025. Earn the same world-class degree in a shorter amount of time. We've reduced credit hours to earn a degree while maintaining the quality and course content essential for effective ministry. Need flexibility? Take classes online or on our Chicago or Michigan campuses. Even interchange between all options on a class-by-class basis. Get started at moody.edu/MDiv.
Today, there is a disciple-making church planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative, but there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
Strike one! Hi, Chris Fabry here, and though Christmas isn't baseball season, I want you to hear what a 15-year-old Moody Radio listener told us.
I'm an umpire, and people often don't like umpires. But listening to Moody Radio has given me the courage to tell other umpires and baseball players about Jesus. I've seen so much growth in my life as a Christian.
Your gift to Moody Radio helps others share Christ, the best gift of all.
Go to moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
You know him, you love him. He's with us live every Wednesday from 8 to 8:30, Dr. Michael Rydelnik. Faithfully by his side, Eva Rydelnik, whispering the correct answer to him so he gets it right.
Absolutely.
440-546-2255.
Will we recognize our loved ones in heaven?
I think so, yes.
Do you have any scriptures that indicate that?
Well, there isn't a verse that says we'll recognize our loved ones in heaven, but it does say that in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. Do you remember that story? Lazarus dies and he's comforted by Father Abraham. The rich man goes to Hades, and there he sees Lazarus being comforted by Father Abraham. Now, I know that this is just a parable, but parables are based on real life, just like in the parable of the sower and the seeds. And the soils. Remember, the sower goes out to cast seeds in the soil. There really is such a thing as sowers and seeds and soil. In every parable, everything that you have in the story is true to life. There are stewards, there are kings, there are all kinds of true things so when we talk about a parable, it's a true-to-life story. So when we see the rich man being able to recognize Father Abraham, it tells me that we'll be able to recognize people when we are in heaven. That's the first. And then secondly, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, it talks about a great reunion that's going to take place at the rapture when the dead in Christ rise. And it says that God will bring with him those who have fallen asleep through Jesus. So their immaterial bodies will be returning with the Lord at the rapture, and their bodies will be resurrected and restored. They'll be caught up together, and we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will always be with the Lord. And so what that says is that we'll be together with them and we'll recognize the Lord. If we can recognize the Lord, I think how is it that we won't recognize each other? So based on those verses, it seems to me that we will recognize each other in heaven. And the question then becomes, why in the world wouldn't we recognize each other? You know, I just don't understand that. I can give a clear answer why I don't think that people who have died and gone to be with the Lord, why they can't watch what we're doing today. You know, a lot of people think, oh, my Father is watching me from heaven. No, he's not. He's kind of busy with other issues right now. God bless him. You'll get to see him again one day when you go to be with the Lord. But when someone dies, they don't become omniscient. They go to be with the Lord. God can see us, but we don't become little gods and see. We don't become omniscient and see what's going on in this life. But when we die, we'll see each other. We'll recognize each other.
And yet, it's my understanding, Michael, and I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong on this, that we'll be in God's presence. So why would we be overly concerned about seeing friends? We wouldn't be like, hey, God, hold on a minute. I'll keep worshiping. I just want to give my friend a hug here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. When you think about eternity, I don't know what we'll be doing for all eternity. It says in Revelation 22, I think verse 4, his servants will serve him. And so we'll be serving God. I don't think that just means worshiping him, although service does include work. You know, service is aligned to worship. But we'll have an eternity in the new heavens and the new earth and the new creation of serving God. And there'll be cities and there'll be all sorts of things going on that we don't even have a glimpse of yet. And so I do think that we will recognize each other. And I think that'll be a great comfort. That's one of the ways that the Lord will wipe away every tear.
So I might be able to like hang out with Moses for a bit or something and be like,
where's
Paul?
Questions. Oh boy, have I got questions. You know, I want to talk to Paul. I want to talk to Moses. There'll probably be a line.
It's eternity. You got plenty of time, I guess. So
yeah.
Okay. What's the next question, Lauren?
After death, do we go to heaven or are we in a sleeping state until the rapture?
Well, I just answered that, but I'll give you the verses for it.
Yes, thank you.
In Philippians chapter 1. That's so interesting that someone raised that question. Philippians 1, Paul says that he would, to live is Christ, to die is gain. What he says is that he would prefer to go to be with the Lord. He says, if I live on in the flesh, this means fruitful work for me, and I don't know which one I should choose. I am pressure, I have both. I have the desire to depart and be with Christ, which is far better. But to remain in the flesh is more necessary for you. So Paul says, I've got work to do here with you, but I would really like to go be with Christ. That means when he dies, he immediately goes to be with Christ. What did the Lord Jesus say to the thief on the cross? Today you'll be together with me in paradise. And then in 2 Corinthians 5, Paul says, absent from the body is present with the Lord. So when our body goes to the grave, it looks like it's asleep. That's why the euphemism of being asleep is used in 1 Thessalonians. But it also recognizes in 1 Thessalonians at the rapture. I want you to listen to this verse very carefully. It talks about those who have gone asleep, right? Concerning those who are asleep, so that this is verse 13, so that you will not grieve like the rest who have no hope. Since we believe that Jesus died and rose again, in the same way, God will bring with him, when he descends with a shout, those who have fallen asleep through Jesus. So their immaterial portion, which has already gone to be with him, descends with him, and their bodies, which look like they're asleep, will be raised and reunited at the resurrection with their immaterial portion.
All right, 440-546-2255. We have a few minutes left for your Bible questions and questions about the spiritual life for Dr. Rydelnik.
What is the meaning of the word peace as Jesus used it in John 20:19?
My peace I leave with you. Is that the verse? John 20.
You tell me.
Oh, I'm looking for the verse. Oh, John 20:19. Peace be unto you. I think that's what it is. Let me look here. Peace be unto you. Yeah, it means peace. It's actually a greeting here in this verse.
Oh, it's like saying hi, hey.
It's like saying shalom, which is probably what he said, because that's the Jewish greeting. Jesus came and stood among them and said to them, Shalom Aleichem, peace be unto you. Now, I don't need to go back to the language that was used. It's in Greek as well. Peace be to you. That's what John wrote. But it means the same thing. You know, I would just say this, that in the superficial shalom greeting that we use in Israel today, or like in my first language, shalom, Yiddish, shalom aleichem, it's not just a trivial hello.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
It is rooted in the sense that there's peace between us and peace, a wholesome, a full relationship between us when we greet each other that way. So I don't think it just should be taken trivially as, hi, hi, hi. It really should be understood that the Hebrew greeting means that we have genuine, a whole and full relationship between us, and that's what is being affirmed. So
there you go. Thank you.
Is
that's
Jesus
same as when Paul writes peace and grace? He's not just using superficial terms. He's using it with their theological significance.
Okay. Is Jesus a spiritual being like the Holy Spirit and God the Father, or is he only God incarnate in the flesh?
Since the incarnation, he is fully incarnate. He is forever. He has been raised from the dead. He's got an immortal, glorious, resurrected body. He's the first fruits. That's what we will have. He is fully God-man still, and he's got a material body, immortal one, but a material body forever.
After the rapture of the church, who will preach the gospel?
Believers who come to know the Lord, the 144,000 in Revelation chapter 7. It doesn't specifically say the rapture. It doesn't specifically say that they will be preaching the gospel, but after the rapture, they are ones described as coming to faith, 12,000 from each tribe of Israel, 144,000 of them. And then the next passage talks about how there'll be people, this is the second half of Revelation 7, there'll be people from every tribe and tongue and nation that know the Lord. It leads those who read this passage very often to say that these people who are sealed to serve God, that the way they're serving God is by proclaiming the gospel so that people from every tribe and tongue and nation will come to know him. And so the 144,000, I think, are like what you would call 144,000 little Jewish Billy Grahams who are out there preaching the gospel, winning people to the Lord during the tribulation period.
And now, if I'm understanding this correctly, the idea of the rapture happening would be a wake-up call for people, that there'd be a lot of people getting saved right after it, right?
Yeah, I think that the tribulation period is going to be the greatest time of revival the earth has ever known. It's going to be a time of God's wrath on earth, but also there will be many, many more believers than we can even imagine during this time, because God brings people to know him through turmoil in their lives, trouble, and also transitions. That's why, when someone moves into your neighborhood, they're going through a transition. That's a great time to talk to them about the Lord. When someone is having some terrible things happening in their life, illness, loss of a loved one, things like that, great time to talk about the faith, because trouble is what opens our hearts to God. Well, think about that. What will it be like? It'll be like that on steroids, turmoil and transition in the tribulation, and therefore that many people will come to the Lord.
Now, as we wrap up here, Michael, I know this is the time of year that people who have juniors and seniors in high school start to really kind of go, we got to figure out the plan. Now, Moody Bible Institute is a wonderful option for any family, but who do you recommend Moody to?
I recommend Moody, particularly at this time when you're thinking about where am I going to go to school. You think, oh, wait, Moody doesn't have computer technology. That's what I want to do. I want to be a computer engineer. Yeah, that's great. You can always get computer technology. You could do a one-year certificate someplace. But what you really need for life, no matter what you're going to do for your career, what we need for life is to be able to serve the King. And Moody will train you to live on mission for the King, to know the Word of God and to serve the Lord throughout your whole life, regardless of where you're going to get your paycheck. I think the best foundation for life is to do your undergraduate work at Moody Bible Institute. I got friends did their undergrad at Moody, then they went on to own businesses. They became attorneys. They became bank vice presidents and all sorts of stuff like that. But what they did is they said they served God their whole lives because they got the great foundation at Moody Bible Institute. I'd really recommend anyone that loves Jesus, when you're thinking about college, that's the place to look.
And if
Moody
finances are an issue, you really ought to take a look at it.
Yeah, because Moody has some of the best financing. Everyone that's a resident student at Moody Bible Institute gets a full scholarship. All you have to pay is room and board and fees. And the other thing is, this doesn't apply if you're from Ohio, but next year, Illinois residents will get an even greater scholarship from the state of Illinois if they're if they are needy for it, depending on their family's income. The Illinois grant is going, the MAP grant it's called, will be available for Illinois residents. But I'm sorry, you guys are in Ohio, that won't apply to you. But maybe you have relatives in Ohio. Tell them, look at Moody. It's going to be the best deal in all of college education, and I think the best undergraduate school in the United States, in my opinion. You know, people talk about Harvard and Princeton and places like that. Great universities. I'm not denying that. But Moody is the Harvard. Moody is the Yale of undergraduate. We used to call it the West Point of Christian service when I was a student.
Wow, look out. Wonderful. So go to moody.edu for more, moody.edu. I've been to one of those. Go ahead.
Of course, the best major, Jewish studies. So
of course.
Just go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. You've been to one of those experienced Moody's, haven't you?
Yeah, I took my oldest daughter there. We had a wonderful time. And really, you get to see the city of Chicago on top of getting to really experience what life on campus at Moody would be like. Highly encourage you to check it out. Again, all the information at moody.edu. Doc, as always, we're thankful for you and for Eva.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Talk to you next week.
You bet. 8:33, more coming up.
Are the feet of those who bring good news. Welcome to Footsteps from TWR. With today's discussion, here's Andy Napier.
For many in the country of Belarus, life can be difficult, especially in light of the government's response to pro-democracy demonstrations. Plus, for the 1 to 2% of evangelical Christians that live there, there's the added pressure of increasing government restrictions and regulations concerning worship. TWR's Branko Bielajac joins us to talk about TWR's ministry to the Belarusian people.
We continue to support our brothers and sisters in the country of Belarus, where the situation continues to be unstable after some pro-democratic demonstrations were stopped in blood and many people arrested. Our team continues to pray for the situation in the country and to put on broadcasts messages of hope and peace and reconciliation. And we've been given the command to pray for the governments of our countries and to have peaceful lives. And this is what our brothers and sisters are trying to do, in the same time helping those who are listening to our programs to understand the importance of the eternal life and the message of gospel.
The Apostle Paul writes in 1 Thessalonians 1:5, "For our gospel did not come to you in word only, but also in power and in the Holy Spirit and in much assurance." May this also be the case for the people of Belarus. To learn more about TWR's outreach to Belarus, go to twr.org/footsteps.
Footsteps is a production of TWR.
So right now may be the perfect time for you to rethink how you pay for health care. And here's why. This time of year is decision time for a lot of people, but it's also when you can join MediShare and save even more than usual. For many families, joining MediShare means saving about $500 a month, which is a game changer for a lot of people, obviously. But what's more, MediShare members like it a lot. Their satisfaction rate is 98%. Imagine that. And MediShare is a proven thing, too, for over 30 years. It's a Christian community of hundreds of thousands of people now. And here's the thing. If you join before December 15th and you mention the promo code SHARE, they'll waive your application fee, so you save even more right off the bat. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just call and you'll get a price within 2 minutes. And again, the deadline is December 15th, so call now. You'll save even more. Here's the number: 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
If she said it once, she said it a million times. I feel like Lauren's always going, come on, guys, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real here. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever said that.
But like authenticity has been a buzz thing, right, in life.
For me?
Well, for just America.
Oh. I guess, sure.
And Christians value that.
Yes.
But I think Christians
Thou shalt
value
not
it, but
tell
they
a lie.
Yeah. But it's also, you want to be transparent. You want to own your thing, and you want to be. But I think
we don't want to overshare.
We don't want to overshare. But I
We
think
don't need to overshare.
Sometimes we do like the interview thing as Christians. Like, one of my great flaws is I just spend too much time praying. I'm neglecting my marriage because of all the praying, and I'm sorry. But I want to be super honest about something, and I know that since you're all my friends and colleagues, that you're going to be nice to me and understand, because I'm going to tell you what my flesh says when I read a headline.
Okay.
Knowing I need some work, and this is a sign that Brian needs help. Not like dramatically so, but just a little bit.
Well, you do need lots of help.
I know. Maybe I don't, because earlier we found out I thought I was hyper neurotic, and you all are like, actually, that's not so bad, and I feel a lot better.
Yeah, you're just neurotic about being neurotic.
Yes. Correct. Which I'd rather be that than actually neurotic. So
I don't know.
Okay. Here's the headline. Now, it's this. Gwen Steffani draws praise and criticism for partnership with Christian prayer and meditation app. So the app Hallow, it's a Roman Catholic meditation app, prayer app. They've slowly brought celebrities in over the years.
Right.
Gwen Steffani, for those who don't know, in the 90s, she was in No Doubt was the band. Don't Speak was their big hit.
Yep.
And she does now that, I said something silly yesterday about like, it's a song nobody understands. And you're like, the one where she spells banana?
And then you tried to sing the song. And I was like, all it's doing is spelling bananas. That's what
She has several songs that make no sense.
Yeah. But anyway, like.
Oh my gosh.
So in here she has this quote where she's like, Christmas season has always been my favorite time of the year. It's a season that we get to celebrate the birth of our Lord. And there's deep in my soul, there's part of me that goes, oh, please. Gwen Steffani.
Because it's Gwen Steffani.
Yeah, it's like
or
you.
Any celebrity.
Yeah, you're like Miss Celebrity on The Voice. You married the country guy after your big divorce. It's like, oh, okay. Judgy Brian's over here telling you what's really going on in his soul. Like, are you just somehow promoting something here, getting on the Hallow app? Are you on some kind of Christian bandwagon? As in, Brian, deep in his soul, is questioning the authenticity of her professing faith. Okay,
I'll jump on that bus with you.
Rebuke me. Go.
My question is, we talked about this last week with
Kevin James.
Not
the pastor here in Cleveland, the actor who played Doug Heffernan.
Heffernan. Okay, we'll just call him Doug Heffernan. Okay. And you didn't feel that way about him? No, you didn't. You were excited.
Yeah.
Because he's so funny.
You like him.
So what's that about?
That's the difference. You like Doug Heffernan. You don't like Gwen Steffani's music.
If you knew how much I was blasting Don't Speak in the 90s as I was driving out of my high school parking lot, I bought No Doubt CD. Daria.
Really? Wow.
Yes. There's a really cool song at the end. I like the bass player. I was a No Doubt fan, okay? But maybe there's something about, I'm trying to psychoanalyze myself here. Like, I like the characters that Kevin James plays, and there's something kind of sweet and innocent about his characters that I could maybe somehow in my mind believe that he could maintain his Christian integrity.
So only sweet and innocent people can be Christians?
See, I know the flaw, okay? I'm just saying, like, here's how my mind works. It's like, oh, Doug Heffernan, absent-minded, funny, falling down. He could be a Christian, but, like, there ain't no holla back girl. Like, I'm like, really?
See, I could be totally wrong here, but I do think it is fair to, when you see someone whose life does not profess Christ at all, to maybe go in with just a bit of skepticism. I mean, it is between them and God. Maybe we shouldn't even be talking about or thinking about this. But I've had those moments too. When I was in college, I had a class where one of the professors would, start of every class, put up a picture of a celebrity who is a Christian, say, let's pray for them.
That's nice.
There was one particular class where there was an artist who put out just such vulgarities in their music. I just said, no, they are not Christian. And maybe that was wrong, but judging by this artist's work and how they carry themselves, I do think it's may be okay to say, let's have a little bit of skepticism here.
And yet, who am I to be so rude about Gwen Steffani helping people prepare for Christmas? I mean, she went on to say, join me and millions of other Christians around the world as we celebrate together the truth that God so loved the world that he gave us his only son. That's pretty specific.
Yes.
She said it with her own words. It wasn't a press release. She said it in the video.
Yeah, and then she's not just like going over to the Hallow app and be like, hi, excuse me, can you please give me some money to do this ad on your thing? No, they reached out to her. And so I think we also need to trust our brothers and sisters at the Hallow app that they're getting the proper people and not just trying to get people that want some money and they're a big name.
But does this change it? Where it's in the caption of her reel, Steffani said, quote, I'll be sharing a reflection on my song, Christmas Eve, and why the song means so much to me.
Why would that change it?
Well, she's promoting a song.
I mean, it is.
So is everybody.
It is
Everybody
still an app. They still want people to download it. That's just how you promote yourself on her end and on Hallow's end. So I don't have a huge problem with that.
I think it's also, she's not saying, oh, I'd like to go do all these things to promote my stuff. It's, her manager saying, you need to get out there and you need to promote your song.
Yeah, and I mean, in years past, I feel like they were a little more gentle with the people they picked. So last year was Jonathan Rumi, who played Jesus. Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus.
Well, they ran out of people.
And Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
Who's very open about going to church like every day. But now that they added Bear Grylls.
Bear Grylls?
We talked about him about 6 months ago, I think. Got baptized in the Thames.
Yeah. But you seem okay with that.
I think
the Thames, that seems questionable.
We've had questions about that, and with that, like there was a bit of skepticism as well. Like he made a statement that part of it sounded good and promising, like he's searching, but also some of it is like this is still maybe within the realm of spiritualism. But people change. That's kind of the crux of the Christian walk of what Jesus did for us. So it's very possible without other evidence of like just really, really bad theology that she might come forth with that she is a devout Christian. It's entirely possible.
So let's do this then. I've revealed deep in my soul the judginess. We've all got a big dose of judgy, I would imagine, but I just shared mine. So after the break, let's do this. What? Don't look at me like that.
I'm just confused at what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were over there like, oh, I'm not judgy.
I didn't say that.
Okay, good. What I want to do in a minute is really get down to what ought to be our heart condition when people who we may not think behave like Christians profess faith. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Hey, I'm Brant Hansen, and I tell people this is the most Jesus-shaped ministry I have ever seen, and I mean it. It's Cure International Children's Hospitals. If you haven't heard about them, you should. They heal the sick and proclaim the kingdom of God. Like kids get to get up and walk for the first time in their lives, and they hear the gospel. If you really want to see something awesome, check out cure.org/Moody. Just look at it. See the before and after photos and videos of these kids. It's so good. Cure.org/Moody.
Moody Radio is thankful for support for businesses across the country, like Fellowship Home Loans. Whether purchasing or refinancing a home, Mike and Brian walk hand in hand with clients through the whole process. You can learn more about their approach to mortgage lending at fellowshiphomeloans.com.
How exciting if God calls you to missionary aviation. Moody Bible Institute offers the missionary aviation technology degree with a maintenance specialist emphasis. It includes engine overhaul, airframe rebuild, turbine engine maintenance and repair, avionics systems installation, and much more. Get started on your application today at moody.edu/aviation. Over 65 years of missionary aviation training. What an exciting way to serve God. moody.edu/aviation.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
850 WCRF. I knew we'd have some folks text us, and we have, who are kind of like, whoa, Brian, what are you doing here? As I shared before the break that deep in my soul, I had a very cynical, rude response when I read that the Hallow app, which is a Roman Catholic app, included Gwen Steffani, a famous singer and judge on The Voice, I included her as one of the devotional readers and people preparing for Christmas. And she professed her Christian faith. Now, I didn't share that to say that I was behaving correctly.
Right.
Nor was I sharing it because I need you to be concerned about me. I was sharing it so I can be honest about what many of us do and have us process together. What's the better thing to do in my soul? Like, Lauren, you're the Moody grad, so I want to start with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not my business to judge who's saved.
No, it's not.
And so when I have that thing where I go, I'm skeptical based on this celebrity's depiction in the media about the sincerity of her faith, what should I say to myself? How should I coach myself when those thoughts come? So I can be less playing God's part of who gets saved.
I think we should be excited that there's an app that's asking people to have some time of prayer with God.
Yes.
That's, using celebrities who are influential to promote prayer and promote relationship with God and to promote spending time with God during this Christmas season. And what is Christmas actually about? We complain a lot about that people get Christmas wrong and you're taking Christ out of Christmas. Well, the Hallow app is not. So we can be grateful that who we don't know, and we're never going to know until we get to heaven if she is or is not a Christian. But the Hallow app is pointing people towards God. So we can be grateful for that.
I mean, if word spread about the thief on the cross, who Jesus said is going to be in paradise, people would probably be like, that guy, come on.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's up there being crucified.
Right.
So why is the human tendency, and I'll just say the Brian tendency, to be like, oh, please, Gwen Steffani, come on.
Because we're judgmental and we like to think we're better than other people.
It's just
we like to see her sin and not look at our own.
It's the snap go-to, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard not to do that.
We like to think that people can't change when they can.
And really, when we look at what saves someone, like a baby Christian who just professed faith in Christ, their life may not really reflect him much yet.
Yeah, it takes time.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my life doesn't reflect him so much. I'll never forget the day one of my kids looked at me years ago, and it was hurtful, but I'm being honest. They said, wow, you're a bad example of a Christian.
Ow.
Oof. Ow.
And they were right. I am. But I quickly forget it when the Hollaback girl is on the Hallow app.
Yeah.
So what's the spiritual discipline you guys use to try to train yourself towards Christ-centered thinking? Because it should be, oh, cool. Another celebrity with lots of influence is pointing people to Jesus. She's literally saying, God sent his son. Merry Christmas.
And guaranteed there's a, brand partnership where she probably has to post this on her social media. So it's going to get to all of her people that follow her because they like her, they like the voice, that are not Christians. And now they've been exposed to a Christian app.
And so why can't I just be like, oh, cool?
I don't know.
How
you
do
can
I
be.
But what do you think was that your gut reaction? And it's okay if it was. I'm not saying you need to be the one who's cynical like me.
I wasn't cynical. I don't know if I was like thrilled about it.
You're maybe more neutral than like, yay. Okay, so then how do I get there?
How do you get to neutral?
Yeah, I mean, I can't expect to get to celebrate. Yeah. Like if Madonna posted something like that, I'd be like, oh, please. But I want to be the guy that is looking positive, assuming benefit of the doubt, looking for God to get glory and getting excited when he does. Whether or not it's from, because Paul was like, I don't care if they're preaching the gospel for selfish gain. I'm just glad the gospel's being preached.
Yeah.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. Because I tend to feel like I have to be a defender of the faith. God doesn't need me to stand up and protect him.
Right.
But yet, I grew up, my first jobs were in the early 80s in radio, and people like B.J. Thomas would release a Christian album, and I go, great. Can't get anybody to buy your country albums anymore, so you come over and try to rob my market.
Right. Brian Luttrell did that from the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, probably more than the 90s.
I just struck a chord for Lauren. That was
she
a big
just
moment.
rolled her eyes.
I mean, I'm not a Backstreet fan, obviously. I'm an NSYNC fan. Thank you
We're
very
all
much.
waiting for Justin to join the Hallow app here.
Oh my gosh, he would never.
But wouldn't it? But see, what we should do, if let's just say the next person to come out and go like, get the Hallow app, prepare your heart for the birth of our Savior is Justin Timberlake. Why wouldn't we celebrate? We should celebrate.
We should. I don't know him. I don't know his heart. I don't know who he is.
And we shouldn't even care what his motives are. Paul didn't care about people's motives for specifically preaching the gospel. And yet my heart is Judgy Brian about the hollaback, no doubt girl, who's telling me not
for
to
the
speak.
Hallow app.
Wow, that's big. That's like marketing genius.
Yeah.
Lauren.
They should have done that.
That's a missed opportunity.
Hollaback. I enjoyed that too much. But no one's giving me any coaching here. Is it because we all kind of stink at it?
No, I think you have to be in the presence of Christ. You have to try to put on the mind of Christ and put on the flesh of Christ, which is already on you, and remember that you were just as sinful as the rest of us.
And are still.
Yeah.
I've grown in holiness since I got saved, but I got to preach the gospel to myself and remember how nasty I am.
Yeah, I think what it is for me, a lot of times I have to remind myself there's nothing good in me. I didn't do anything to gain his mercy or his grace. I didn't do anything. It's all because of him. And so why do I get to start judging someone when God can do whatever he pleases with whoever he pleases?
And use them for whatever purpose he deems fit.
Yep.
I think it's just, and I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to myself here. I do think it's just a muscle of reminding yourself that it's none of your business and it's between them and God. And I do try to, when I see something like that, I stop and pray, and I pray for protection, because there are a lot of really weird semi-Christian theologies in Hollywood, and I pray that they get protected from that.
Mm-hmm.
So Gwen, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I am judgy, and I am so glad that you're participating in the Hallow app.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Who knew Daria could do the Charleston? I didn't know.
I'm full of surprises.
I didn't know. There it was. That was super fun. I loved that one. Good way to wrap up the show. Tomorrow's Thursday. Dave will answer your financial questions. We'll talk to you then.